Many of you hear about mindset a lot. You hear from successful people that mindset is key. Many of you will understand that at a very intellectual level. I sure did. Why are you still in the position that you're in right now? You tried studying about mindset from all these successful people over and over and over again, but how do you get that mindset? A lot of you might say, many people will probably end up going, oh, I don't have that mindset, so you just stop right there. And maybe some of you will say like, well, how do I get that mindset? And nobody really talks about how to get that mindset, or at least there's not very many. And some people will say like, well, you just got to start doing affirmations, or you just have to go on a walk or do meditations or whatever. And sure, that might work for some people, but why isn't it working for you? It could be that you've only done it one time, or maybe every day on a span of a week or a month, or maybe a year, and you still don't have it. Although I do find it very odd that you would do it every day for a year and still not figure it out. But then here I am. But then again, for me, I didn't do it every single day for over a year. It took me 10 years, but I was also very off and on about it in very short bursts. So you continue watching videos, you listen to podcasts, you read books, and you're constantly learning about these things, and you try to put little bits of it into practice. So conceptually, you know what mindset is, or like having that entrepreneurial mindset or the positive mindset. You logically understand how it works. But at the end of the day, you have like a little doubt in the back of your mind. You get it, you want it, but you don't feel it. And that's the key. You have to feel it at a biochemical level. So you might be wondering, well, what the hell does that mean at a biochemical level? Don't I need to have that mindset to actually feel it? No, it's actually, you can actually turn that around and actually feel the feeling first and then start working towards that mindset. In fact, I think that is the big key that's missing. If you're like one of those introverts, like how I was, it turns out that I'm not an introvert, but like I thought I was. You'll be reading up on it online. You'd be like, okay, how do I get this mindset? Okay. I still don't feel it, so I'm just gonna keep reading about it over and over and over again. You're just gonna go into this rabbit hole of just constantly trying to figure out an answer to get into the mindset. And then you're gonna start getting into the mindset of trying to understand how mindset works, but not actually doing the practice of whatever you're trying to look for. So what I figured out is that you actually have to feel like a very extreme emotion. Think of like a falling sensation. Like, I think the most extreme example would be skydiving or bungee jumping, or even a roller coaster drop. And then at a very minor scale, like, when you're playing a first-person video game and then there's like you see yourself falling down at an extreme height, and then you get that weird rush, although it is delayed because you're not actually in the moment feeling it. There's going to be a delay, so you need to have a significant drop for it to actually start kicking in a little bit. So I wouldn't really recommend that. But if that's like your only option, then sure, like try to find something that has like a very extreme height in a video game and jump off of it, and then you actually have to feel it in your body. While you're in that extreme moment, you have to scream out an affirmation on what you want in life. Sure, it sounds ridiculous. I know. I thought it was ridiculous too, until I actually tried it. It had an initial spark until you keep doing it over and over and over again as much as you possible, until you're sick and tired of doing it in one day. And then you do it again the next day. And then you do it again the next day. And you'll do it over and over and over again until like you reach that point of, I don't know how else to say it, singularity in your mind. But when you're saying that affirmation during that extreme emotional state, you actually have to project your voice, not just screaming it on top of your head upwards, right? If you're screaming it without projecting it, you're only sending it so far, like an AOE, or just strictly around you. You're not like beaming it out into the world. So imagine like you're at a stadium and you're trying to throw your voice on the other side of the stadium, right? Or you're trying to throw your voice to whoever cheering for or talking shit to. I don't know. Don't do it that. Don't think about it like that. But think about it in such a way where you're trying to cheer on like somebody, whoever's playing, whatever. But the key thing is that you really have to project your voice. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I think for those who understand what I'm talking about will understand what I'm talking about. I'm not gonna get into like the techniques of projecting your voice, but I think there's other videos that will talk about this, especially anybody that's into breath work or even vocal coaching. Those are the type of people that will actually teach you about voice projection, because screaming is very different from projecting. Or you don't even have to have a falling sensation to actually feel this extreme feeling. You can actually do like a cold plunge or take a cold shower, and during that extreme feeling of being in the cold, you can actually start screaming an affirmation out while you're cold, right? Because you're going through this extreme process and you're feeling something. Heck, maybe during an anxiety, right? During an anxiety attack, you have like that weird feeling that crawls up your legs. That's what happens to me. Like I have like this weird feeling that goes up on the left side of my leg into like my back. It's like a phantom back area. I don't know how else to explain it. And then start screaming like, I'm excited for this, whatever. Like, because people say that anxiety and excitement is basically the same feeling. It's just the way how your mind works is very different. And I thought a lot about this because I was like, well, how the hell does anxiety and excitement are the same thing? When I was waking up from a sleep, and I was going through a very crazy anxiety. I wouldn't call it an anxiety attack, but I had this weird anxiety happening. I try to stay in the moment to figure out, okay, people say that this is supposed to feel like excitement. Let's try to think of a moment of the time I was super excited about. And for me, it was like when I was a kid, coming home from school when a new video game was released, and I was like, okay, I remember feeling super excited the closer and closer I got to home. And I was like saying, okay, I think I know where people are talking about this. That is the point I'm trying to make. And you might be wondering, well, why didn't anybody teach us this when we were kids? We were actually taught this indirectly. And you'll see what I mean. I understand that not everybody had this show on television because it was on cable. And you might be wondering, oh, that's just a cartoon. It only works in cartoon. If people are saying that something like this actually works even as adult, it's like adults trying to teach kids that you can actually do this too. Here's another example, and it's from people from my country in Japan, and it's Dragon Ball. Although I never really watched Dragon Ball or read it, like I know enough about it. I watched the movies and I was never part of the fandom. And you see the Saiyans, they'll be charging up, kiai tame, right? And then they'll actually kiai as they shoot out their kamehameha. Well, even kids here in Japan would do the same thing. And then when Dragon Ball spread across the world, I'm pretty sure every kid wanted to do that watched the show, especially all the boys at least. I don't know about the girls. And then now where people hit their teens, they were still the fandom since they were kids. And then when they became young adults, still fandom. And now we're in our 30s and we're almost hitting our 40s, still in that fandom, doing the same thing, feeling what they felt as a kid, doing a kiai tame and actually doing a kiai when actually going through, when trying to mimic the things that happened in Dragon Ball. Kids that kept doing that, you see them having full of energy, and they tend to have like a positive outlook on life. Even people what you would assume that they're going through possibly a bad moment, but they don't see it that way. They see it as possibly a blessing, or they possibly see it as something that they enjoy doing, even though you might think that you don't want to do what they're doing. You possibly want to go higher. You did not do the practice when you were a kid. Like me, I never done that practice because I was never a Dragon Ball kid. The older you get, the harder it is going to do this, or at least to get started on doing this, because it's going to feel a bit childish. And I get that. I feel that too when I first started this. In fact, I still kind of feel it now. Oh my God, I'm almost 40 years old. But you have to do this if you want to change your mindset. Try doing it when nobody's around. I know some of you might actually will have difficulties doing that because somebody's could possibly always be home. They might laugh at you or whatever. But if you really want to make a difference in your mindset, just at least attempt it. It's better than not attempting at all and never figuring out that you're never gonna get into that mindset. And do not shout into a pillow, or do not shout into, like, I don't know, something that's gonna completely block out your voice, because you're not projecting that energy out. You're still keeping it in your vicinity. And when you're starting out this process, you're gonna have like this weird sensation that's going through your body when doing this practice. You're gonna be like, man, this is gonna be kind of cringe. Some people might find you very weird, and maybe for some of you, and this is a very good way of thinking about it, is you're probably gonna think it's hella stupidly funny, that you're gonna laugh at yourself for doing it. And that's actually the best way to go. If not, if you're in that mode of, man, this is gonna be very cringe. That's how I was, right? I thought it was gonna be hella cringe, but I was like, okay, but I'm still gonna try this just to see if it works. Because I was like, man, I really got to change my mindset, or I really got to figure out how this mindset thing works. What did I do? Take a cold shower and do it. And while taking a cold shower, I just started screaming out the affirmations. And if you're somebody like me that's gonna feel awkward when doing this, you're gonna be like, man, is this even working? And you're gonna start having a lot of doubts when doing this. But you know, when you're doing like the cold shower thing, or when you're in that mode of falling down, you're not really thinking about if it's working. You're just doing it, and you're feeling this intense feeling of falling down, or actually trying to warm yourself up from all this cold that you're being sprayed on with the shower. Or if you do a cold plunge, then you know the cold water that's around you. When you're not in that extreme feeling and you're just doing it at home, or you know, out there without an extreme feeling, and you actually do it, you're probably not going to commit to it fully. And when you do commit to it, the chances are that you're probably gonna stop halfway through, and that's when the cringe happens, because in your mind you're gonna be like, well, I didn't commit all the way, so it's not gonna work. And then you're gonna have like that mindset of, well, if I committed, then you won't know if it would have done. But you know, I stopped halfway through. Now it feels weird because I didn't go all the way through. It's bad both ways. So you have to fully commit to it. Or who knows? You can also think about it like your mind is trying to resist that change. But I implore you, just push through it. It's like a lighter. You're trying to ignite something. Right now, you're just rolling the little wheel thingy, right? And you're just trying to create sparks. When it gets to the point where it just feels too weird, you can just stop, try again later on in the day, or you can try it later on in the night, or you can try the next day. The little rolly thing is a little more looser, so it's easier to roll. And you can actually start creating some sparks. So this is how I thought about how this whole process works. Like, imagine that you're on a coast, and there's like a body of water. You know, there's land on the other side of the water, but there's no bridge to get there. That land is a land where a bunch of people who have that mindset, and you're on the land where, you know, everybody that's in their down state, or that's not in the mindset that they want, is where you're at. You want to get to that land, and you know that the land is there because you've learned about it, you heard other people talk about it. Because you heard people talk about it, you see it over there. To some people, they don't even know it exists. To them, they see like a big haze in front of them through their eyes, or fog, or mist, or whatever you want to call it. And you're here and you know about this whole mindset idea, and you want to know how to get there. What do? You actually start going through affirmations through extreme emotions. When you do scream out that emotion, you start building up a bridge. You know, forget about the idea of where to collect these things, or you know, all these little nuanced stuff. I'm just talking about building a bridge. Imagine you already have all the tools and everything. Imagine you just start building that bridge. In the beginning, you're gonna suck at building that bridge. It's gonna fall off and you have to start from zero again. Your mind is still not fully believing that you're on that, because you're not on that island yet. You just keep going. You just keep screaming out an affirmation through an extreme emotion, and then those debris that fell into the water, you just leave that there because that just cements it to a new foundation, and then that'll just get stronger over time. So you just keep doing it, and then eventually, you know, you're pretty far out, and maybe setbacks will happen. You know, it will probably break, a huge chunk will just break off, and then you'll have some setbacks. You have to keep going because, well, you already started, you already have like an idea, and your mind starts shaping itself. So you just keep building, and then you just keep going over, you just keep going and going and going. Maybe somebody will just come along and destroy it with a TNT or a dynamite or whatever. I don't know what they use, right? That's completely outside your control. But you know what you can control? To continue building and be like, man, that's a huge setback. You might have to start from the beginning because of how badly the bridge was broken. But you know what? All those pieces that was destroyed, that's cemented to a new foundation that became stronger. You start building up again, especially in the beginning. You know, you're gonna have a lot of setbacks. But as you keep going, the setbacks will only go back so far because of how cemented that foundation became from all the broken pieces. And, you know, it's just gonna keep going and going and going. And then you're just gonna keep building and building and building by screaming out an affirmation. Every time you scream out an affirmation, here's another piece on the bridge. And eventually, you'll set your foot on that land, right? And that bridge, only you can see it and only you can touch. It's like a phased bridge that you build that only you can use. If other people on the land that you were at wants to get to that side, they have to create their own phased bridge. You can help them. You can help them build that phased bridge, and you can guide them of all the mistakes that you made on that bridge and all the setbacks that may happen. You can try to help them block out all the external occurrences too. Somebody might cut, like the time when somebody brought that dynamite to destroy that bridge, you can help mitigate that for them. So next time you're in that moment of an extreme emotion, whether it be a cold shower or a roller coaster ride or whatever, or even like a loud music concert, or heck, you can wear headphones and then like be in the moment of the music. Project your affirmations, even if you don't feel like it's working. Keep doing it until you actually start believing it. That's a very small portion. It's not like you're not faking something else with other people. You're doing it to yourself. So, you know, you're faking it to yourself until you make it. And do whatever you can to push past that cringe. Doing that will just add another piece to that bridge. Because remember, you're not just chasing after the mindset or just learning about the mindset. You're trying to make it as real as you can in your own mind.